Hello, species, nature, or volume, humanity, distinctly and non distinctly simultaneously, in demonstration of value as nature and nature as value. In the Trinity, they share as the identity of existence and as the identity of space, two bonded semi natures, also as three bonded semi natures. How? But not just bonded, simultaneously kept complete as three simultaneous natures, also as a complete nature that they are not in complete control of, as they are distinctly and non-distinctly the same volume in three positions, making more identities of temporary slash lasting forever nature, which will only stay positive unto itself. The the and the phenomenon of exceptions and of exception nature as identity's nature or volume. It is to, is from, is as, and is with, and for each identity of value slash value progression. Where it is for example, is in relationship to how it is to, from, as, with, at the same time, the value of that positive or negative, which is in relationship to the concentrated value of Earth in relationship to one identity's relationship to its three inherent natures of volume: inherent, active, and progressive, bonded, in gaining value as its identity of relationship to itself, and as the value of that which will only stay positive unto itself. Therefore, because we're all other since semi-ancient times, because we're fact treatment nature, sequence treatment nature, no other systems than this one. It demonstrates negative value nature progressions, acts in nature since semi-ancient times, acts like predicate acts, natures like criminal and seditious natures, wrongdoers, wrongdoing, mass criminal and seditious natures. Originally and still blamed on other things other than themselves. The identity of the ground, and it has a relationship to our quality of fact treatment nature. Then through the identity of the ground as modern nations, not just as that same identity of the ground, but distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously too. Because this is how more and more positive forever nature to the perfection of one identity of value progression. Science is perfection. See, but we have that self-valuing, how they kept that and keep that defended with logic racketeering to the justification. I'm not a lawyer, not a police form, not a criminal, not a doctor. We have them recorded, our interbranch identities of branches of each modern nation, victims, but victim predators. Forgiveness is not just for the for this is for about what is distinctly and non-distinctly onto five identities of correlation nature, as I have five identities of sequence nature that are distinct. This is where each one is simultaneously invisible but still discernibly distinct a number of ways at the same time, so and sequentially, so this can be discerned. Now one has learned. So the solution for the world is to set up identities of differential of relativity differential modules operating off the engineering of the value progression to existence, perfect world building on perfect world where evolution's fruits and gifts really come from. Positive value nature progressions, action natures where they really come from. See, we have a we have tactically ulterior from the actual identity of the grounds relationship again, because it has a value/value nature relationship to itself. So not only is the ground below modern nations tactically denatured, the foundation of modern nations, the foundation of modern nations simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously has a relationship to our quality of fact treatment nature for what's going to continue to demonstrate negative value nature progressions, accident natures, but not by accident. We have all positions of sophistication, all means to remedies peaceful as one's recorded in collusion with that originally and still private victims or victim predators. You can't defend that. You know, it's the same. And victim predators, because the branches also criminally legalized criminal seizures nature, maintain that self value. Because this is other bonded natures of worse than racketeering, worse than war crime, simple racketeering method that you kept all identity the grounds roles before our founders were born, before our founders' parents were born in America. This was already entrenched here through fake sides nations, all victim identities, top down, no matter if they could be any rights they have. States and areas forcing them to be roles inclusion with them. So they, like, for example, people pretend autocrator, dictator, or they pretend, democracy. You know, this is how people are only trained in response to where this is fluent through our nations. So it is also maintenance to stay that way by hurting us through people, through motivations, through roles with uses of the identities of titles and of jobs each. There is logic racketeering. What people really want to be in life. For example, on math scales, be able to tell the simple ways that the lies where they pretend to be about care, like in relationship to American history, things we have to say, like similar. They're lying about logic. They're lying about and the same pathology of fake sides of body of value treatments, fact treatment nature. See, they're doing this. Well, I'm not just saying these as words. They're doing this as criminal and seditious natures that never had the right to be legalized. All already invested to precedents and statutes here, there, everywhere. Modern nations, the foundation of it, already with the below that, the nature. See how there are less worms every year. Deserts were made because they took down the mountain. So we have grouped impositions upon each nation individually, distinctly, sickly victim. Long, long invested, not realizing, having blamed other things, others themselves for time treatments, everything going against the perfect world's progression, whereas now it only allows that or forces the earth's value through as us from here. This is where and as and how one identity is value is nature is value simultaneously with that other in nature of invisible but still discernible trinity. To and as temporary positive that is simultaneously temporary slash lasting quality of diffusion unceasingly and increasingly, positive or negative. Identity of relationship. To identity can't help but being positive because we're its identity of volume. To the perfection of its value by the position where Earth is demonstrably most probably closest to its inherent nature of volume. The one identity that is inherent, active, and progressive relationship to itself, self-generating, as what is manifest true because it has its identity of relationship to itself, and has the value of that. So it simultaneously increased its value by pushing part of the value that space and existence originally were before winds, for example, into it pushed them into existence. And that increased value of existence, the semi nature of it became the Trinity another Trinity manifest in relationship to this identity, its identity in relationship to itself, and the value of that where it is self-generating. So yin yang, for example, will not leak. And then the ancients revealed English together because they knew they simultaneously needed to not defend, to understand the value of the sounds of the languages individually grouped and together. The same reason and way individuals are individual, grouped age too now, grouped sexes, grouped area, and species nature of volume. And this is simultaneously body of value discernment, where body of value is value as nature, nature is value simultaneously. And this is to and as the value of the order of physics, distinctly, non distinctly, and simultaneously, while it is the value of the order of metaphysics, distinctly, non distinctly, and simultaneously, while it is the value of identity, distinctly, non distinctly, and simultaneously. This is how one identity is making more and more of itself. It's making more inherent, active, and progressive nature of volume as a complete nature that can only make a complete nature by being and staying what will only stay positive unto itself. Exceptions in exception nature is where Earth has this concentrated, where space and where existence grouped and their shared identity, because see part of their complete identity was made less, but it was simultaneously made more by them staying complete value by being three bonded as what could be simultaneously in what was already generated an inherent active and progressive identity of volume unto and as the value of all parts of space and existence when they are one nature of volume before matter. See that its identity of relationship to itself. Only what see, and people are debating this offensively with physical delusions, and this is relevant to that's why these aren't just words. Like this is not a game. This is already a standing identity of industry greater than any standing that we could just apply to with pantheism, for example. All the with this identity of with these identities of relativity modules are ground modules, where the ground has ties to our human fact sheet nature. We're going to make the garden. See, because we're in and we're going to make reveal means that can't be afforded individually grouped and together to counter tactically denatured, not just from modern nations foundations, but that below them, to afford the means to do not just a cleanup, but to a reconnection of nature, the one that evolves, its relationship to water. Now, see, there are means to do this. We have done. We have this worse than obfuscated, but through motivations, even when we're in how real, made up, we're in relationship to what really keeps it. It's which is only defenses of logic racketeering. This is why the simple is not allowed connection conjunction. So they're also, like, for example, consciously exploitations of knowledge of each of the sciences, like the law, where they're pretending to be about the environment as roles, keeping it hurt by keeping nature where we are fact, keeping nature as identity. What is that nature? Nature is identity. It is the identity that is all value progressions individually together at once. Only the extent of that is debatable. See, we have the several sciences recorded individually grouped together from off campuses, maintained on off campuses in layers, victims that need to hide and hurt and value hurt. Each age of each position areas age of each identity, the ground positions ability by correlation agent. So we're supposed to describe the little details about nature going away, getting hurt to kids, and they're supposed to get mad about that. See, but not as criminal and ceaseless natures. This is why the Trinity is for. We have fake sides and fake alternatives, all into collusion to not just to blocking discernment of the relativity of the increasing nature or volume that all the trinities are. Know how all the cell nucleus, the cell body, and the cell wall, that physically manifest trinity, demonstrating body of value discernment, two identities of sequence nature on both sides of it shared with their shared bodies of value. The cells of plant species, the cells of human species, I never saw under a microscope. But obviously, we have cells. That's what we're taught. I say this, and it's we're taught. See, there are proofs many ways because the ancients went by not just by the identity the sciences share, which is not just the identity of relativity. It's constantly about each question about how about one identity's relationship to these three natures of volume. For example, the letters of the English alphabet are open, closed, and bonded. This identity is bigger than the four directions, as what is, to, from, as, with, and for, positive or negative, unceasingly and increasingly. Life is a quality of diffusion. So human fact keeping nature is make everyone was made to make opinions where the only allowed fathomable identities of relativity as industries, as means to positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures are all, to the maintenance of what can't defend itself and counter what is through criminal foreign influences hurting each nation, but it's not sourced by one. It's just keeping them locked to defenses in relationship to value treatments where we have peace, internation police, the highest ranking people of the FBI, of the CIA, of other nations' equivalents. These are identities of the law. Each identity of the ground of states and areas courts, each identity of court. They are recorded originally and still how maintain victim predators, criminally foreign influence, fact treatment nature racketeering, database racketeering rules, and physical delusions raw. And with aggressions and their roles, not just from there now, now that they need to have pretend there was legitimacy again in relationship to hundreds nations at once, fighting about fact treatments down to where they have that entrenched um, means to check who's lying about the finite, used to keep everyone in collusion here and there with sequence racketeering. As styles of logic identity uses identity of a nation, for example, of a title, here and there. They have then they say what they have to say when the interbranch are recorded originally and still how kept criminally foreign influence. Simple logic. They have to pretend that person has a conspiracy theory. They pretend people to fake behavior into databases recorded. They're pretending others recorded. If you go into court before having this reported and admitted outside of court, they already have their roles with database racketeering of the branches individually grouped and together, already in collusion with not just private but overt criminal enterprises. Not just that, but right through those fake identities, even not those natures of inclusion, kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite lies, active ones, not just lies, progressive ones. Everyone's a liar. That's all. That's all, and they're pretending other, not by accident. Jim said, "What did that and does that, and is only capable of doing that now, here, there, everywhere." That they can't afford mandated law follow. With these are other natures and methods of motivations and of roles with other uh, as roles of other natures of organized crime too, where the value is our is it was is originally and still the fact treatment nature itself. Even our founders didn't have free speech; they had speech forced. They had to hide the roles with our Constitution, with the Declaration of Independence. They had to pretend that other reasons, other things themselves were the real causes for because they had to hide their identity, the ground relationship and roles with it. Because that's forced by nature. Because nature is, of course, tactically ulterior. That these are tactical ulterior from. Because this is designed to keep the identities of each branch individually grouped and together. Maintenance to needs natures as criminal ceases natures needed to hide life aggressions, valuing what is intercampuses of each age and nature, intercities connected, as record with sensibilities recorded how to maintain criminally foreign influence like that, covering up criminally foreign influence lies, criminally foreign influence uses of identity, because they fight here and there the same way about because they're already in collusion, but it's not sourced by one. And where it is grouped, before it was grouped, it was just to have them defend that group like that. Logic racketeering that can't stand someone trying to report mandated law on areas where we have shootings all the time. There is recorded, there are recorded juxtaposed linguistic racketeering, motivations, natures, needs, roles, not told on. This is because of how it's off the identity ground. There was already before Native Americans A through Z. They didn't realize what they were doing. Nations A through Z, they didn't modern nations. They didn't realize this is making everyone blame other things, others themselves, for naive reactions to everyone naive at once. To a quality of fact treatment nature, forced to defend itself while being forced to entertain what you can't entertain and defend yourself properly. So you blame all the things other yourself, not by accident. That is a breaching racketeering method, worse than war crimes, worse than racketeering. Simple racketeering method. other natures of motivations, other natures of value. But you have this, you have money itself. You have kings, you have pharaohs, you have states and areas used remotely, self-valued roles, only capable of defending fake integrity, further and further forced pretended. There was never our obligations as Americans was to tell how integrity was prevented. The White House. It was recorded so many ways, prevented free speech then and now. Thank God for him, Barack Obama. And not by accident. Everyone's enforcing the finite proofs of it from being spoke about, while they are forcing mandated law being prevented, told, while they have already, through time, all kinds of database racketeering, effectively recorded how maintained self-value, and how maintained through criminal foreign influence that was here since before anyone was born. It knows the identity, the ground relationship that intercities has to the World Trade Center and to the Pentagon simultaneously. They have value treatments private that you can't defend at us at the same time. They have everyone as animals, attack the victim predator industries. So what's that do? It keeps a debate from the victim predator individuals, the victims individuals. It keeps where and how, like, we need to fight to defend the finite verbally, prevented counters to the collusion of fake care and of fake righteousness aggression simultaneously. The only way we could do this is by countering the identity ground relationships that are tactically denatured. And that is understanding in science that reveals also how the foundation of each nation, modern nation, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously is hurt and grouped. But in relationship to identity, the ground, it positions that the identity of volume and its identity of relationship has to itself, the one that only increases as the value of forever nature, and as its identity of relationship to itself, positive or negative. So we have 1,905 days in a year, 1,095 days a year. Each identity of value comes with, it is as, comes with what is to and from, and with and for simultaneously. That. And what it is for is positive or negative as another simultaneous nature. Where and as and how this one identity of value progression will only stay complete. So we have this is where prayer is not with faith. It is with scientific concentration in relationship to these five identities of volume as the five identities of sequence nature, and how each anything discernible is semi-nature, and every semi-nature has what will only stay simultaneous nature, inseparable from it. So we have 2 points of possession on each, two identities of possession. on each side of each identity of volume, individually grouped and together, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. And where we are simultaneously proper treatment of group difference and of complete difference, it is for individual difference first as nature of volume. This is where we are. This is where we are quality. This is how we are quality. This is how we are identity. We are two from simultaneously, as, with, and for this. No matter who we are, that's why we long clean water. Where value is nature and nature is value. It is all identities of difference at once. As the order to these three distinct identities of order that are the order of physics, the order of metaphysics, and is the order of identity itself at once as this course. This is the hierarchy of identity, which is higher than metaphysics itself, higher than the body itself. The body is valued by and as this identity of forever nature. And we have its identity, have its identity of relationship to itself, and have the value of that inseparable from ourselves. So it is semi here and semi not here, where it is the identity of the four directions. And those are four semi natures that are two from, as, with, and, and for more and more positive or negative points in identity of correlation progressions, value progressions. This is identity's course. The campus Marcius systems are concentrated value, revealed manifest in relationship to how the branches of government, the executive branch, the judicial branch, the legislative branch, they're maintained value, manifest, really because of value, how value nature has a value/value nature relationship to identities, values nature. Everything, even all parts of space nature at once, are only value nature inside values nature. And it has three natures of volume: individual, grouped, and together. XYZ, those letters are grouped. W stands for the walls of the body. It's alpha and omega victory simultaneously because it's our nature as value, value as nature's semi-nature relationship to its identity of value progression. So where physical difference of sexes is, where that is translated into and as where simultaneously that is gaining the identity of what is metaphysical, non-distinctly and then semi. But then where we come to identity's complete course, then it is only finite. Each identity and that is possession of it and its self relationship to itself, which this is a native pure. No matter who you are, there are proofs that ancient Americans existed, and how there's recorded, not just proofs, is recorded what they call proper evidential scientific consensus, what they call proper scientific evidential reception. It is through criminal foreign influences and with delusions, with physical delusions, where this is where physical identity is simultaneously not just present to distinctly, not distinctly, and simultaneously with and as the value of metaphysical, which is our nature. This is again where our nature is simultaneously semi-nature, relationship to that one identity that will only stay. All identities of value progression, they're simultaneously value as its own. So wherever we can discern temporary value treatments, there is further means to discern. See, value treatments are in relationship to positive and negative. Positive and negative are contained within this nature of volume that our identity is, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously as the order of physics, the order of metaphysics, the order of an as identity, to, from, as, with, and for itself at the same time. So it is the identity of relativity. See, but we need identity of the ground, relativity, differential modules for the science of pantheism stole, which is not asking about faith, which is not asking us to agree about the name of the value we're going to use to communicate when we're not sure about the identity of that is its identity of relationship to itself. We know if you throw something gets up, it's going to come down. We know the exceptions and exception nature associated with that. See, but not worse than just forgot how this native identity, the relationship to the ground, and then not just as, but distinctly as the identity of relationship it is as modern nations. See, the pathology of homes that was forced with the fact, cheap nature, torture of, and slavery of our founders. And not only has that not been demonstrated, but that has been forced not let demonstrated by collusion between fake care and fake righteous aggression, forced with identity racketeering against anyone who's going to use basic logic. And then how they've been covering up the whole methods of it is recorded. So we're having value differences in relationship to problems that are happening now and that have happened, like with the phases with the shootings on schools and then to parks and things or whatever. These are in relationship to this is maintenance to a breaching racketeering method before our founders were born already. Intertransnational organized crime groups, already intertransnational military, already intertransnational identities of nations, all only allowed to be victim predator reactions above and as states and areas, logic racketeering, styles, nature's roles with treatments of positive where peace could only be, that can't defend themselves and keep peace that is not criminal and ceases not there's not inclusion. with what really kept and keeps all things not realized connected, keeps everyone from demonstrating their connections. They can't afford free speech here, there. They have national and local news involved with the methods of each modern nation's branches of government, including our own, pretending things recorded into databases, uses of areas for that through time, and then more and more having to pretend other. They were backed into positions we have database relationships, distances from where they're going to walk from classes, involve also with them. So what are they going to say? They're going to say, "Oh, well, look at these statues. We're supposed to be undercover or whatever. We have to be entrenched with the organized crime groups." That's why it's critical to observe how the recorded in collusion enter that. How these prisons and police are recorded online and with area identity ground locations and on off campuses, racketeering acts roles with all natures of child abuses recorded, bonded, recorded how exploited that way. Committed prey, vaccines. So then they know they have people always use things like, "Oh, you need to get help," and stuff like that. If you mention simple things, so we have logic racketeering. We have strangers kept needing to partake with identity racketeering against strangers forced because the courts are already individually the various identities of the same natures of courts of different natures of courts on and off their state offices. All along all routes is tied to this. This keeps each age of fact-keeping nature self-valued. Identity of negative value nature progression, criminally foreign influenced. Identity of breaching screen, patriotism. Even where and how, especially where it's blind sacrifice, because that's all that was allowed to be fathomable, to be maintained, handed to be defended by and as the identities of all podiums, all online and other platforms. They're lying when about every word I say because of their roles with sequence racketeering. They have recorded uses, or then they go, but these are these top guys, and they help us against these other nations that hurt us. Russians and Americans, for example, with our Justice Department, a whole bunch of nations, they have conspiracy theories. By having those conspiracy theories, they also have that coupled with they're just faking conversations, forging names, putting things into databases. They have statutes already manifest, already exploited manifest, where they give the benefit of the doubt to the interbranch. And they're pretending the courts have the integrity to hear cases where they don't originally instill. Same way they're keeping these victims of schools involved with off campuses, on off campuses, and later racketeering right back to the areas that was started from and through other natures of it, rolls with it. That's why they overtly just confess and record themselves with racketeering acts, with overt criminal enterprises distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously in the suburbs, in the cities. It's not just legitimate undercover. It's not just legitimate training of people on off the criminal justice schools, other departments. Each identity of the sciences is maintained, tactically defended as what's a breaching screen, as what it stays incapable of being anything other but than manifest sense and sensibilities no, use Jane Austen, use what is manifest real as criminal satious nature positive and self-valued. And then in relationship to the logic of people who need to speak about the hard, cold truths, where and as and how they're presenting themselves through predicate acts, through criminal insidiousness, wrongdoers, and how that is on an increasing scale against who tries to use logic properly. See, I'm not a doctor, but I'll delineate their delusions now for you with the Attorney General, which I also recorded have rights to now. Former Director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, former standing chairperson on RICO law. His lawyer, Robert Chevrolet, I believe still, I don't know if it's still on Farmington Avenue, down the road from Harry Beach's Storehouse, Mark Twain House, grouped there, grouped in relationship to, see, but this is about value treatments, where value is nature, nature is value simultaneously with the Trinity here. And with that increasing value a little further too, positive or negative, while here as temporary positive. It is simultaneously as more and more and more positive or negative as a quality of diffusion in relationship to and as itself. The identity of value progression, that is the identity of all identities of value progression individually grouped together at once. Only the extent of this is debatable. This is again each science individually grouped and together recorded offensively originally and still defending other. So what do you need to pretend? If you're defending others, you're not letting basic correlation demonstrate the racketeering method against our founders, the fact keeping nature slavery of our founders. And who's speaking when each age of fact keeping nature asks questions about what motivated roles with slavery? It was this worsening racketeering method, worsening war crimes, simple racketeering method. It's not just sustained, not just engineered, but counter-engineered into what is stronger than might and stronger than power and stronger than them together group. But it only can be tapped as it's by valuing its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that in relationship to the five identities of sequence nature. We have forced identity racketeering acts of WFSB, of Fox Connecticut News, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by a whole bunch of police, interbranch, and them also involved with overt criminal enterprises through time, with sequence shifts, with racketeering, with mail, and with wire crimes, interbranch also on and off the locations, and how through family members of everyone, everything. These are identity ground to keep all victim predators. So forgiveness is for the people who need to speak truth. And we still have all identity ground, child defender roles, and we need to pretend other. So we have the courts, we have inclusion here and there, distinctly and non-distinctly. We have are grouped also. We have whole crime methods recorded, individually grouped and together, to and as the value of each identity of title, each identity of each branch of government, manifest as value nature's value slash value nature relationship to itself, where and as and how. Simultaneously, both the value of a trinity as the increasing and value that space and that existence are, and together that it keeps getting that filled. So it took a part of space, part of existence, as its own full, complete, its complete nature of volume has a has a complete semi and has a complete finite possession of itself, coming to, from, as, with, and for ourselves, as value, as life, humanity. We are quality of diffusion. So we put knowingly we have Africa, parts of Africa, in parts of South America, Mexico need reliefs. Everyone from this that came from semi-ancient times, from this that already invested, everyone blaming other things, others themselves, in defenses of themselves. As a standing identity, the ground relationship, that is an identity of negative value, nature progression, self-value, incapable of defending that in us from what effectively kept and keeps areas criminally foreign influenced, what effectively keeps evolution parted from its roles with the ground as a differential, as relativity differential. See, we have volume science obfuscated by people with volume theory offensively with physical delusions, with censored sensibilities as criminal insidious natures, self-defended on mass scale, for example. We have people with the theory of relativity being used to keep the identity of relativity from being demonstrated, even though it's actually what's recorded. Actually, even though it's actually what is science, through all the ways in where and as and how all exceptions are in demonstration of its truth and its truth's relationship to itself. How could that be relevant to subjects that have nothing to do with it? Atom is the identity of the subject, for example, as an increasing nature of volume, positive or negative, unceasingly as a quality of diffusion. Eve is energy's victory energy. And that victory is temporary positive. And that temporary positive is temporary / lasting positive or negative. So this is also why we have to understand this trinity, which is going to be, no matter what, temporary positive. More and more of a semi-nature of space and of a semi-nature of existence shared, and more of that filling a complete identity's complete nature of relationship to itself, and that filling in more and more stayed complete the semi-nature of space, which is the simultaneous nature, which is invisible but still discernible. The identity. So this is the identity of relationship. Its identity of relationship to itself is the value of that, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously as the value of a subject. And wherever there is a value of a subject, there is the value, there is predicate value, which these are two increasing natures of volume with their conjunction, which is Trinity nature, manifest. Thou sentence is manifest. The ancients revealed these 26 letters of the English alphabet have an identity of relationship to themselves, have the value of that. That is the same way our species is individually grouped together. The ancients wanted, needed, understood why we need to not agree about the name of God as an algebraic variable. in relationship to the discernment of this identity of value progression. So we have recorded how they effectively maintained victim predator defenses of each science since semi-ancient times. Simultaneously, victim predator evidence reception, logic racketeering, self-valued roles within as identity ground relationships to and as the individually grouped and together shared, for shared, needed, pretended integrity the whole time, only under understanding how it's not integrity through their needs to not say that so they can defend, still pretend positive, short of that. There's also how the sequence racketeering is involved with that. Because the branches of government have been using all areas, pretending to record things, using the laws that say they can do things, leaving out exceptions in exception nature. That's how they're maintained, needing to hide that. When bad things happen later, they have to go back and record, see what happened, not by accident. When sick standards stay justified, they need to pretend other, not by accident. If they say other and they start doing that, that is while hundreds of nations individually grouped in together, we're already fighting about positive treatments. That's about identity treatments, already inclusion, already victims trained to that. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it capable, will never be capable of causing positive value, nature, progression, action, evolution, fruits, and gifts. Only capable of using exceptions to pretend other, while causing the opposite, and as roles pretending sensibility titles mean what they don't too. For example, we have instant means to simultaneously send reliefs to all kinds of natures of costs that everyone doesn't need simultaneously too. This way, in many pray, vaccine. I show you how to fathom things. Thank you for coming out this afternoon. Thank you.